All right, back down to the Chiefs pit. Got Timmy Petty, Mark Petty, and Richie Petty. We were looking on the Twitter, and some pictures popped up. I thought was pretty neat. It had Kevin Harvick and Ron Hornaday. They were fitting up Kevin's son. And how old is he? Does anybody know? About 11 or 12 years
Something
old.
like that. He's young.
And he's getting a good start. Now you worked with Harvick and Hornaday, right?
Yep.
So that was kind of neat that they see them fitting him up. But
Well, it's gonna be neat to watch it. What they're fitting him in, whatever he runs.
no, that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
got to tie in with both of them guys. But anyway, we were thinking about this kid. They're starting them out young now, ain't they? I mean, they're getting them in there early. And didn't you say that was it Kurt Busch has got a son that's coming too?
Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch's son.
Kyle Busch.
Wow.
And they run the mini sprints and stuff like that.
I got you. So
I guess.
well,
Sounds right.
Yeah.
they're starting them really young, and that's good to see it. And used to, I guess, like Jeff Gordon and people like that, they started with go karts and stuff like that. But now they got these bandoleros, and then now they're getting them in these. I think Ramsey, he went down here and watched a modified race, a Cars Tour race, back in the summer, and it was like a 16-year-old kid or something, and he won the race or something.
Or less. I thought
Yeah.
he was
Oh, he might have been. I believe
And
you're right.
he's good.
Yes, he is really good.
He's good. He's as good as them grown men.
Wow, and I can't imagine. But when we were kids, we've talked about before. We built our own go kart track, the three of us, and we had go karts and messed around.
Yep.
But we didn't really do anything that was sanctioned.
No, we didn't.
No.
But we raced each other.
You know, speaking of that though, as an engine company, how many 14-year-olds won late model races with our motors?
I don't know.
It's several.
Several.
Yeah.
Before they even turned 15, they were driving these late models, and they weren't limited late models. They were real, late models.
You know, built motors the whole
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm pretty proud of that.
now let's go back to the beginnings of NASCAR here in our family, and our grandfather Petty, Lee Petty. He was 35 years old when he started racing in 1949 in NASCAR racing.
Oh gosh.
So he was considered to be an older man there, right?
He's 45 when he won his first Daytona 500.
Wow. Yeah.
And now they're retiring at 40,
Yeah.
45, right?
But he was at 35, he started, and he only raced for 11 years or so, because in 61, he had that bad crash, and he tried to come back and run 4 or 5 races, but he had to retire because he was hurt up pretty good. But, and then a little show and tell, one of these old cars here, when he was in the hospital there in 61, I think the picture we got, it's got Jimmy France and another guy in there, but they're giving Lee these
You
models.
figure that other guy's the one that built the model cars?
Probably, yeah. But anyway, grandfather started at 35 years old. He won 3 championships and a short track championship during this time, during his career. He won a Daytona 500, 54 races, and I think a total of $230,000 in his whole career. And then he started at 35. Imagine if the guy would have started at 19 years old, right?
Well, still, that's a lot of money back then. Comparatively.
Yeah, but I'm just saying he got a lot done in a short amount of time.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't want to.
I'll put it this way. As far as racing, I raced for, several years. Started when I was 35 years old. I was an old man when I started. And a lot of people retiring at that age.
Morris and Richard, he wouldn't let them start racing until they were 21.
Right.
They had to be 21, and Richard, I guess in 1958, right after he turned 21, him and Pop Red and Dale, they took off to Columbia, and he went and run his first race, and Daddy and Lee, they went somewhere else and ran that same weekend.
Yeah,
not only
confused about that. Why there were 2 different sanctioned races?
well, one was convertible, I believe, and the other one was hardtop.
all right, yeah.
But it
Because
It'd be like going to late model. I'm a sportsman,
yeah.
or but the Busch Series versus the Grand National or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that got me thinking about Kyle. He was 18 years old when he started in ARCA car, and he won his first race. But his first Grand National, he was 19 because it was, I think, that later that summer his official first Cup start was at Talladega. And
He's 19 by then.
yeah, he turned 19 in June there. So
Was it the same car? the Magnum?
Yeah, same, wasn't it? I don't know. I have to look that up.
Yeah.
But I know he.
That's just a question
Yeah,
that I'm asking.
yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. And then another thing I thought was neat. We got to thinking about some of these guys, these older guys that we knew, Ned Jarrett and Fred Lorenzen, people like that. They retired early, and Ned was pretty successful. I think he was 21 when he started, but he was like 30 some when he retired. He done won 2 championships or so, 3 championships.
Yeah.
Ned did, so he was a success. But he started earlier, and Lorenzen,
What was his reason to retire early?
Ned, I think he.
Because it was
well-
right after Fireball got injured real bad.
Well,
I think
I don't know. It might have been, but there you go. That's what people didn't see back in them days. A lot of guys were getting killed and hurt,
Right.
and you went through that segment of Fireball getting killed.
Well, Bobby Isaac did the same thing.
Well, Bobby Isaac later, but you had Jimmy Pardue, Billy Wade getting tire testing. They were testing them interliners. They got killed.
I didn't realize Jimmy Pardue got killed.
Yeah,
I knew about Billy Wade.
and then you had people like Fireball in '64 at the World 600 getting killed, and
Yeah.
then you had a few others. But
And these were moderate sized
Right.
track compared to what
right.
and the speeds was coming.
But I think and then you had the Myers brothers too. Both of them were killed early. So I think that played on some of these drivers where they was a little bit more successful. And then they thought they were getting older, like 35, 36 years old, so they retired, So,
Yeah.
but Pete Hamilton, there's
Yeah, I was hoping you'd mention Pete.
well, I was going to say Pete was a guy that come along, and he didn't race but a couple of years. He had 4 wins in the Grand Nationals, 3 of them with Petty's, and I think one of them was a 125 with Cotton Owens in '71. But he retired right after that, and he never run a full season. But his good friend Don McTavish died in '69 in a sportsman race, and Pete never got over that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about Pete, and I know we've told it before, but I always like to say this. You didn't realize who Richard Petty was because he was your uncle. And as kids, I just know that we all love Pete because he went out and he started out winning.
Yeah.
And, we've asked these questions before to other folks, but I mean, Pete was our hero from the word go, and all our good friends and heroes that worked on the car, and our daddy. But I always thought the world of Pete Hamilton. I thought he was a cool character.
Well, Pete came south racing, but he started racing with that Don McTavish up there in Massachusetts. They was both from there. And that ties back into Tiny Lund with us because Pop Red came in the 50s from Iowa with Tiny out here. And talking about drivers quitting early, Tiny had retired or quit Grand National racing and was running them little
It's not
cars.
Trans Am.
Yeah.
It was like that.
But
Grand
he
American.
was running them, and,
Grand Am, yeah.
and
I
he
think.
and he was still hanging on a little bit of his career, but his Grand National career was over, and he went to Talladega in '75, and he wasn't even supposed to be there,
Right.
and then
Was that 73?
'75,
Okay, because I remember Nana and Pop
Right.
was down there with us, or we were all in the campers, and they rode home with us.
yeah,
And
Yep.
I didn't realize, knowing it now, you know
Right.
the story, but Pop and him was such good
Oh,
buddies. And Pop, one of the few times I've ever seen Pop cry.
but he wasn't even supposed to be in the race,
Right.
And he come in as an alternate and crashed, and I think that,
Just a filler,
yeah.
maybe.
But that me and Mark were talking earlier about Bobby Isaac.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in there, Talladega, he'd had voices come across telling him to get
I've
out
heard
of the
that
car.
story. That's why I mentioned it. Yeah, yeah.
and he retired and got out of it, but then he came back and died from a heart attack in Hickory.
Yeah, and that's why they have that Bobby
Was that
Isaac
77
Memorial
or
race
so?
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
And Bobby Isaac had a pretty good track record as probably an older guy.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, he's a good driver.
Yeah.
but yeah, so he had the voices. He quit and he came back and got killed. So I don't know if it had anything to do with it or not. I just
I mean, I wouldn't know, but yeah, he something was telling him something.
Yeah. Well, now you got Ramsey was telling me that was Josh Berry. I think, what'd you say, he was 35 years old now, and he's going to start 34, 33. And he's sort of like Lee. He's starting his career at the end of like most of
Yeah,
these
but,
guys.
but he's been driving short tracks and stuff for,
Right.
forever.
But he's
right?
finally
I
getting
mean,
his break.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's so there's no science to where the right time to start. It's just if you're a competitive person, you got that winning part of you, It doesn't
Well,
matter.
you either a driver or you ain't.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
I
So
would say.
anyway, I can't tell you which I'd rather start at, because you were 17 when you raced your first late model
Yep.
race. I was 18, and anyway.
Pure stock. I come from pure
What,
stock
what
race.
was you?
Yeah.
How old was you? 19.
19.
Right out of high school.
Well, I guess that's another episode down, and that's just hopefully we'll have some big things I think coming. So like and subscribe and stay with us.